Whether we like it or not, Arsenal and Manchester City will be seeing a lot of each other over the coming few months. The sides are already set to meet in the Carabao Cup final in March, and will face off at the Etihad in April in a fixture that could massively impact the Premier League title race. Moreover, whilst what I'm about to mention is dependent on future results, there currently exists a genuine possibility that the two could meet in the FA Cup at some point, and also during the Champions League knockout stages for a two-legged tie. With this possibility apparent, I saw it as appropriate to look back at the sides' last meeting, to analyse the clash and to speculate as to how Arsenal may look to approach future encounters with City, learning from the past. The sides last met at the Emirates in a Premier League showdown in September, with a stoppage time equaliser from Gabriel Martinelli cancelling out an early opener from Erling Haaland to ensure the points were shared in North London. These were the starting 11s on the day. Now, let's get into the analysis. If I had to sum up this game in a sentence, it would be something like: City try and almost succeed in frustrating Arsenal and exploiting their weaknesses. City trying to do this can be seen right from the start of the game. Whenever David Raya had the ball at his feet and Arsenal were trying to play out, when City were trying to press them, it wasn't the most aggressive press. City would set up with a front four spread flat right across the pitch, and only one player would go to the ball. The rest of the players would hold their position, with the wide players marking Arsenal's fullbacks to stop them getting out wide, and everybody else covering Arsenal's route into the midfield. Players not involved in City's first phase of press would still be ready to squeeze up and mark Arsenal players to stop them being able to take the ball on the half turn and play a pass. This resulted in Arsenal struggling in playing out from the back in the build-up a lot of the time, often going sideways and backwards until they were forced long. This strategy of forcing Arsenal long was a good one, as they often surrendered possession, because Viktor Gyökeres was struggling with his hold-up play early into his Arsenal career. Their struggles in build-up were only worsened by the absence of Martin Odegaard. Arsenal's skipper is key in their build-up, frequently dropping deep to receive the ball and helping Arsenal to progress up the pitch. The player replacing him in this game, Mikel Merino, was often stationed higher up on the right-hand side. This meant that Arsenal were often lacking the extra man that they would have needed to be able to play through Man City, and whenever Mikel Merino did try and drop deep to provide himself as an option, well, his lack of agility and how slow he is on the ball meant that he'd often squander possession in potentially dangerous areas, hence why he mostly just stayed higher up the pitch. However, for all the praise I've given Man City in their approach, this approach didn't completely stop Arsenal, as they were able to problem solve during the game itself and still play through City. Arsenal were able to do this by quickening their passing and by also having players with good technical ability like Leandro Trossard drop in and help Arsenal play out. This allowed Arsenal to dominate early possession and really take control of the proceedings early on, putting pressure onto Manchester City. However, being under pressure may have been part of Pep Guardiola's plan. When Arsenal are taking control of proceedings, they often want to box teams in. Physical players who are good in the duel like Rice, Zubimendi and Merino are all good for this, winning the ball back and helping Arsenal stay on the attack. However, Arsenal frequently will also have one of their central defenders go tight to the striker man for man to try and win the ball back off them and stop them being able to hold it up. This is meant to stop them being able to bring others into play, effectively boxing them in. However, if the striker can resist the defender's attempts to win the ball back, it can provide a brilliant opportunity on the counter-attack for the team that was boxed in to get numbers forward and hit the opposition's defence while they're missing one of their centre-backs. And what I've just described is exactly how Manchester City were able to take the lead in this game. Arsenal are on the attack down the wing and they end up losing the ball from a cross. Several of Arsenal's midfielders such as Zubimendi, Merino and Rice try and win the ball back and ends up being a bit of a pinball in midfield as City try and break out anyway. The ball comes to Erling Haaland, who has his back to goal, and Gabriel sticks tight to him, trying to win back possession for Arsenal. However, Haaland doesn't wait for contact from a defender, he spins and quickly plays the ball into Reinders. Now, Arsenal are exposed with only two defenders back, and Doku's flooding down the left, meaning it's a 2v2. Arsenal's defence are now in retreat, backpedaling towards their goal, as Erling Haaland comes steaming down the middle of the pitch at incredible pace. Arsenal are completely opened up and Reinders rolls the ball forward to Haaland. It seems like Saliba might be able to get back and recover, but it's a great first touch from Haaland and he slides it into the corner. 1-0 to Man City. This was a really good counter-attacking goal from Manchester City that exposed Arsenal at the back, but I also feel the carrying ability of Manchester City was key to this. City almost had a carry-first approach in this game, specifically with players like Doku and Reinders, who were really good at getting past multiple players. This, combined with their willingness to commit players forward and to make forward runs, made them a force to be reckoned with on the counter-attack. This allowed Manchester City throughout the game to expose Arsenal on the turnover, able to win the ball back and within a few passes have a shot on goal. This all seemed really tailored to expose Arsenal's weaknesses, just like what City did after scoring the first goal. After scoring the first goal, City kept probably their longest spell of possession I can remember in the game, and I feel like this was frustrating Arsenal and their supporters. After going 1-0 down, you often want to get back in the game immediately and see a reaction, especially playing against what you consider your title rivals, especially being at home and considering yourselves a slightly stronger team who should be the favourites. That's why Arsenal being starved of possession after conceding was frustrating, especially for the fans. They were constantly booing Donnarumma, who suddenly was taking such a long time every time he had the ball at his hands or feet. I definitely think this was intentional. It was meant to take the sting out of the game a little bit and silence the home crowd. The Emirates can already be a nervy place, and that kind of nervous energy and the frustration can transmit onto the players and just take the energy out of their performance. However, there's no way those kind of tactics would completely derail Arsenal's performance, and I think everybody knew that at some point there would be a resurgence. Arsenal managed to formulate some more attacks and were in the ascendancy towards half-time. A lot of the attacking impetus was coming from Noni Madueke and his ability to carry into the box. He was able to stay wide and go down the outside and cross, but I felt he was more effective on the inside. Arsenal already weren't winning many first contacts from the crosses and weren't getting on the end of much, but I felt like when Madueke was on the inside, he was able to use his agility and his footwork to twist and turn and actually get a shot at goal, and that's how he managed to trouble Donnarumma towards the end of the half. Sadly, Madueke did have to come off at half-time due to an injury, but that didn't stop Arsenal with their wing play approach. Many of Arsenal's best shooting opportunities came from crosses that were cleared because there was space on the edge of the box due to Manchester City's really deep defending in the second half. I feel as though City were defending deep because Arsenal raised their game and were actually pinning them back, and City took a we hold what we have approach away from home and maybe hit them on the counter as we saw a couple of times. But I also feel as though Arsenal essentially allowed City to get back into their shape a lot of the time, and they didn't commit enough players forward or play the right forward pass a lot of the time, as we know their strength isn't always on transition. However, they were at least moving the ball faster in the second half. The introduction of Eze helped with this, and I felt he had a really good game. He showed his mobility and was able to take the ball on the turn and get Arsenal actually running at City, something that really helped them to increase the intensity of their attacks. Despite these improvements, it was always going to be tough to equalise, with City essentially going into ultra defensive mode, but a chance did arise. Instead of allowing City back into that defensive structure where Arsenal having to play in front of them and essentially moving side to side all the time, Eze clipped a ball over the top into the run of Gabriel Martinelli, who's really good at making those curved runs in behind the defence. And when Martinelli gets in behind, it's a beautiful finish from him, a beautiful lob over Donnarumma, and Arsenal do manage to equalise, and the points are shared at the end of the day. So what do I think are the key takeaways from this game that can be used in future encounters with Manchester City? The first one seems simple, but hear me out. Don't underestimate Manchester City or Pep Guardiola. Many supporters, myself included, saw Arsenal as massive favourites for this game. It looked like City's best years were behind them, Arsenal were on the rise, they had the better team, the better players, and I didn't think there was a chance on earth that Manchester City walked away from the Emirates with all 3 points. Yet they were minutes away from doing just that. And I don't think it's because they have a better team or better players per se. I think it's more down to the fact that we didn't account for the fact that Pep Guardiola maybe isn't as stubborn as he might have been before. We all thought he's never going to change his stripes or his style of football and adapt to the league, but he's showing just by competing for the title this year in this ever-changing league, he can adapt to this new era we're seeing. He can adapt and he can play a more pragmatic game where he looks to exploit Arsenal's weaknesses. So that's definitely something to look out for in a future encounter. I think not conceding the first goal, and especially not conceding early, it's not make or break, but I think it's important to prevent City from doing something akin to what they did in this game, where they're kind of happy to sit back, because we know how much Arsenal struggle to break down low blocks. Finally, I think Arsenal would benefit from playing their more attacking fullbacks, Calafiori and Ben White. I mean, we know about the chaos Calafiori can cause going forward. He's definitely sort of game breaker for Arsenal because of his unpredictability. And then Ben White has such a good understanding of the players he's playing with on that right hand side of the pitch. He makes good overlaps, he knows how to read their movement, when to find them, and I feel like he needs a few games before then to kind of retrain that connection, because he's not been playing consistently there. So he may have lost some of that, but he definitely still has the potential to do that and is a better attacking fullback than Jurrien Timber. And I'm not criticising any of Arsenal's other fullbacks, but the more defensive options, I just don't feel they're as vital if City are going to play the way in which I'd expect them to play, which is how they played in this 1-1 draw at the Emirates, where even their wide players were more inside in the pockets. Their wide players weren't going down the outside, and their fullbacks weren't overlapping, they weren't trying to get crosses into the box. There weren't a lot of situations where you need those 1v1 defenders out wide, which is why I feel the fullbacks going forward should be a priority if Arsenal are going to play down their right and their left-hand side as much as they did in this game. So those were my takeaways from this game and what I feel Arsenal can do to prepare for a potential clash with Manchester City. But those are just my takes, and ultimately football is a game that is played on the day. So we never know what will happen, but let me know what you guys thought of the video, what you agreed with, what you disagreed with, what you thought I may have missed. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you enjoyed it, and yeah, come on the Arsenal.